Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Gotham Chess slow run. In this series, I'm playing on an authorized account on chess.com. I started at 400, and I'm moving up the rating ladder while explaining my thought process to all of you. This is episode number 8, and we are approaching 650. For the first 7 episodes, we have played principal chess. We have taken the center with 1 pawn or 2 pawns if available. We've developed our knights and bishops. We've tried to stick to the principles like castling our king, and for the most part, if you do that, you're going to be just fine. So we are waiting now to cross into the advanced beginner territory. At around 600 rapid, people are somewhat familiar with openings. Nothing too crazy just yet. And, you know, every 1 out of 3 games or 4 games, you will get a game that is just like, you know, unfathomably low level. Like they just, you know, are going to lose all of their pieces. So right now I'm playing in the 600 area. My opponent starts with e4. I have played a lot of different openings. I will just stick to the basics. Knight to f3, knight to c6. And my opponent plays the Italian. Now, as I have showed many, many times before, you have 2 choices here, really, with black. You have the knight out and the bishop out. Earlier in this slow run, we encountered the fried liver with knight to g5 and knight to f7. And then I played a game where I played bishop c5, and my opponent went here anyway and lost the knight in 1 move. So allowing this is okay as long as you have something ready. But for the most part, this is going to be the better move because the knight cannot go to the g5 square. It's just not possible. This very important inclusion of the bishop move allows you enough time to develop your knight and then castle your king. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to play knight to f6. And now if my opponent goes knight to g5, I have the extra option of castling because my bishop is not in the way. If I had just played with my knight to this square, knight to g5 would be possible. It's not a particularly good move, but it is very effective at low level because people don't quite know how to defend it. The move pawn to d4 is played, which either is, you know, brilliant by my opponent, like they know their openings really well, or they've just lost the pawn. Both are possible. So I have 3 pieces covering that square, right? The most natural move by far is to take simply with the pawn. That is reality, right? If I do that, my opponent can then push the pawn forward. Now, as a 600, I think most people here are going to look at the position and go, free pawn. So I'm just going to take with the bishop because I keep everything protected. Bishop takes f7 check. Goodness me. Sometimes in these slow runs, I try to explain myself, but then they just give me a bishop, like for absolutely free. Okay. They give me a bishop and they go for a check. Now, here you can run to the corner. You can run back to where you were. You can run to the middle. You could, if you're very brave, run forward. You are not threatening to take the knight because it is protected. Now, the way you make a safe move here is you try to make a move where you are safe, you are far from attack, and your opponent doesn't have a quick and easy follow-up. Right? So you're looking like, can my opponent attack my king anyway? Is there, you know, it looks pretty safe. Like, we could probably just go to the corner, right? Now, here, it would be quite advanced for my opponent to spot a move like pawn to c3 and bring the queen here, right? Because if my opponent managed to get a queen over on f7, I would literally be checkmated. This feels like a very... Wow, that is very well spotted. Now, this looks like a major problem. It looks like my bishop is under attack. It looks like I am, you know, I'm simply losing here, right? So let's say I move my bishop back, and this is where mentally a lot of 600s, I think, would completely blank on the incoming attack. It actually looks like I am mated. My opponent is going to play this move and think that king f8, queen f7 ends the game on the spot. Luckily, you don't have to move your king if you are in check. You can move your pawn. This is a very important move. This is called interposing. Now, my opponent... Interposing is when you block an attack. My opponent's playing too fast. Of course, being that I am down, sorry, I am up material, but I'm under severe attack. You know, I have to defend myself here, and that's what I'm going to be trying to do. And I'm going to try to defend myself by trading the queens. But my opponent now with no queens on the board probably should not checkmate me. It's probably not going to happen. So my opponent is attacking my knight. Now, if you move the knight, the rook can come down, and that looks like checkmate. But it is very important to remember which squares your pieces can see. And I am very fortunate here that if I just simply retreat, my opponent might go here, and that's just, that looks like game over for me, but it's actually game over for them. And now that we have a pause in the action, I hope you can understand that there is only one good move here as far as I'm concerned. There are more, you are up a lot of material, but now that we've survived the worst of it, very, very aggressive stuff, what I would do is I would kick out the most annoying piece. This is a move that I have been desperately trying to make. I really wanted that knight gone. And now I'm going to go into simplification mode. So I'm going to pin the knight, and I'm going to take it right away. I'm not even going to think. There is a benefit here of the knight is pinned to the rook, and so the move pawn to e4, put pressure on the pinned piece, would win us some material. But if my opponent moves the rook, I'm not even thinking. Like, it's not the best move necessarily, but without pieces on the board, this is certainly the way to go. Now, this move comes in, we take a look. Is there a threat? No. And if I'm going too fast, we will analyze it, right? Like, this is, we will analyze every step of the way. Sometimes when a piece arrives here and has no way forward, I like to just attack the piece. So when you notice that the opponent can't actually move forward at all, and the only move is to go exactly where you were, that feels like a little psychological victory. This is just a free knight. This is just sort of my opponent running out of, ideas. Now we're going to simplify. We've removed more pieces from the board. I'm going to go here. They might take. They also might run, but if they run, they get trapped. Okay. Both are okay. And now with rook and bishop, we are not losing this. We are not losing this. We're going to bring our king forward. The king can walk in an endgame like this, and then we're going to bring and we can take, I don't really mind. King here. Rook d1 might happen. And then they might go here, and I might just take the rook. That would be pretty cool. Maybe not. Maybe they see it. They might also play this move. But at this point, you can't do anything. I have defended myself, and you simply don't have the pieces. And now this is the worst type of style to play against. This is the style of chess that, and there's actually, it's interesting because chess styles evolve. Like Soviet players, for example, historically are known for positional, for endgames, for things like, like that. German as well, actually. Actually, a lot of players, my opponent is from Indonesia, a lot of players from the Philippines, also very aggressive, very tactical, like always looking for aggressive checkmate. Just my experience. And I don't know, that it's just an interesting way how, chess evolves all over the world. And Indonesian players are very combative. Like, they're always looking for a fight. They're not going to play some slow, boring games. And that's a very tough style to meet. Like, we're going to analyze this position. I guess in this case, you cannot see my opponent's flag. It's just the slow run opponent. And I've done that to sort of protect people's anonymity, and so people don't go and friend request them and whatever. Meanwhile, we're going to keep eating some pawns here. Anything that's free, we're going to take. So I've just, it's always like, it's interesting how styles evolve. And depending on who you play, you can see, like, I don't know what the Italian chess style is or the American chess style, but, Turkish players as well, especially the young prodigies, very good tactically and so on. At this point, we're in the endgame. I have seen a lot of 600s struggle in positions like this. It's really simple. Here, you don't need to burn a lot of time. Make simple but effective moves. If you want to attack pawns, just attack pawns. This was good, this was good, that was good, this is good, this is good, this is good, this is good. Everything is good because you are winning. You are totally winning. Okay. We wait for a move. This was a nice first game. I think it was quite instructive. We haven't had an opponent play this aggressively against us really at all yet. And again, I'm just trying to eat some pawns. Maybe I don't have pre-moves on. I keep forgetting. Wow, I kind of called this move. Now, promote a pawn. That is all you need. Everybody's safe. Everybody's happy. Just go promote a pawn. You don't need to keep giving checks. A lot of beginners love to give checks. Okay, we're going to try to trade the rook. You obviously shouldn't trade the rook. My opponent is trying to not let me push this pawn, which is actually very effective. So I will push the other pawn. Now, I need to defend my bishop in order to push my a pawn. And now this pawn is going to have a little runway to move. If rook e2, we fork. Opponent might go rook d2, and then I will play a very stylish move if this happens, because my rook is blocking my bishop. So I will play this check. Okay, this is just another free pawn with a check. If this is a fork. If that, I don't know. Let's pretend like we've blundered a bishop. My opponent didn't capture it. So now we go defend ourselves. And listen, you really shouldn't resign. I mean, people can absolutely stalemate you. I will be very honest. Oh, there's a very nice sequence of moves here that forces a checkmate in 3. There is a forced checkmate in 3 in this position. I think it's the only sequence, by the way. It's a very cool sequence. You can try to pause and find it. It's super nice. I'm going to play it now. Basically, we give a check. So only one legal move. And on the next move, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pin the rook to the king. And now there are no legal moves except walking here and getting checkmated. And my opponent resigns. Oh, they didn't let me play the checkmate. That is so unsatisfying. That was pretty, that was kind of cool. It was a nice little tactic. The only mate in 3. Rook h3, bishop c5, force the king to walk itself into a checkmate. Nice little sequence, nice little exercise. Okay, let's analyze. So this is maybe the 3rd time we've had an Italian. As I have been saying, the move knight to f6 allows knight to g5 business, and f7 is under threat. And so here you can play what's known as the main thing, which is this, and I might play this later, or the Traxler. Traxler, one of my favorite openings. Highly recommended. Also available on Chessly if you would like to learn it. Just an incredible opening, the Traxler. Really. Highly recommend. You sacrifice the bishop, you go like this, you try to win the game like from the opening and launch a huge attack onto your opponent. Now, my opponent did some normal stuff and then played this move d4. Now, this move doesn't make sense because it's it loses a pawn, right? But it does matter how you capture this. Another way to play here with white would be to prepare the move d4 with c3 and then d4. And that would make a lot more sense, although don't forget, folks, you're not just setting up your pieces in an opening, you are interacting with your opponent's pieces. And that's a free pawn, which is why most people here play rook e1 or d3, defending the pawn. But if they don't do that, it is a free pawn. In this case, I have to take one of them. Now, it's a little dangerous here if you take the wrong way. If you take with the pawn, then the opponent immediately pushes forward. Suddenly your knight is under attack. You make a move, now they might be attacking your queen, or they might be attacking, they might be defending themselves and then trying to attack your knight again, and it can get very complicated. You can very quickly get yourself into a very bad position, because you have to go here, suddenly your king is open, you're in a lot of trouble. How do you avoid something like this? Well, you have to play the move which keeps your position glued shut. And if you notice, in this position, it's glued shut, If my opponent were to take, I can take with a pawn, but still, it's better to take like this. Everything is glued shut. There is no way for my opponent to do anything crazy to me here. If they move the bishop, I just come back. Then I push, go like this. As we get more advanced, I will play some different Italians as well. But I tried to play the move that doesn't allow my opponent to push forward, especially in a king's pawn game. Then my opponent went crazy, right? They went knight g5, I moved my king and they played pawn to c3. And I gotta tell you, here it is very easy to panic when you see this move. I think a lot of low-rated players here would freak out simply. And in many ways, going to e8 might have actually been better because I would have been out of the way of the queen. Look, this is not a check. Since this is not a check, I am able to just play a queen move and completely protect myself against stupid attacks and then kick out the knight and then, get all my pieces out. And in some ways, going here left my king a little bit out in the open. So that was sort of instructive how even moving in the center might have been safer. So returning to the home square, just making sure none of the opposing pieces can get to me. How can the queen get to me? I drew this, and I was wondering if my opponent would spot it, and they did. They noticed that if they pushed the pawn, it would go very nicely with the knight, the queen and the knight together. And here it's over unless I find the move d5, and then here my opponent played too fast. So you have a pin piece, you should probably put pressure on it. And even here, my opponent had a nice move, which was pawn to c4, not trading queens with me. This is a very annoying position because if I move my queen anywhere, let's say here, suddenly this is a check and I'm losing my bishop. So I would have had to play, if my opponent had gone c4, I would have had to block the pawn, and then I would have had to trade the queen. That would have been what I had to find. I was waiting to see if they would find it. But if you're down material and attacking somebody, you cannot trade the queen. And then after that, I hope it was pretty self-explanatory. That was a very instructive game. Very instructive, I have to say. Very interesting game. Let's play... How about we honor Grandmaster Daniel Naroditsky, and we play what's called a Jobava London. This is a London system, d4, bishop f4, but with a knight on the c3 square. Traditionally, this is not the best way to play because you are blocking your c-pawn, and we always talk about the fact that in the queen's pawn games, the d and the c-pawn should go together. But it is a little bit of a tricky system. You go for this attack. It doesn't work if they are prepared, right? They usually put their knight on a6. If you're watching this as an intermediate player, the way you play this position is you just play like this. Usually they kick your knight out. If they don't, then you very happily, okay, then you come here. And now this knight will be chopped. We're going to get rid of that knight. Take that knight. Okay, the knight came forward, but we're going to do the exact same thing. And now the knight has to go back. It's the second game in a row that the knight jumps in and we take it. And now I'm going to take it, and notice what I have done to the pawn structure here is I have ruined it. Doubled A pawns, right? Not very effective. And a nice maneuver here is this move knight to A4. This is advanced stuff, but I'm trying to, trying to honor Daniel in playing the system. And this move prevents the pawn from going to C5. This knight jump to the edge of the board. If you're 600, obviously a little bit above the pay grade, don't stress about it. Let's trade the bishops. Let's develop the knight. And let's castle. And black is going to struggle in this game to bring any of these pawns forward. We have very good control of the position. Knight to e4 is actually quite a good move. Let's see if my opponent plays the move c5. Okay, they did not. That's okay. They are 600. Now, b4. So we are completely shutting down all pawn movement. But actually, so far, my opponent is playing in a very reasonable way. I cannot criticize at all. The bishop moves here. I will now bring my queen out and attack this pawn. Let's see if my opponent sees it. Actually, it would have been better for me to sneakily attack it. This is a nice idea. Actually, it might just be a nice idea, but it doesn't quite work. So the idea here is that my opponent is creating a discovered attack on my knight. Now, the problem with this is I can just take the pawn. They can't take my knight because I am attacking the queen. And on top of that, I can take with the knight, although that's not quite the end of the story, which we will discuss. Yeah, the problem here is that I have simply this move. And you cannot take my knight. You've just given me a pawn. And it's funny because I built my whole position to prevent that move. And now their queen is under attack. So they move. Now I can move my knight, but I might be able to take this pawn and defend myself. But we'll analyze a little bit later. Let's keep it very simple. Let's bring the knight back and offer a trade. You shouldn't take this. This is a 1,000 to... yeah, we'll discuss, but you want to make trades in chess that benefit yourself and not your opponent. This only benefits white, this trade. I mean, I'm removing a very active knight. I anticipate this move now, but we will see. my opponent should have anchored the knight. Whenever you drive a horse into the center of the board, you should try to anchor it with pawns. I know what I'm talking about, y'all. I predicted this move. We are not going to blunder any rooks. We're just going to move the rook. My opponent plays the move f6. Opponent's playing, like I said, a very good game. And now is one of those moments I've been talking about throughout the slow run where we have many moves that look good. Many moves that look good. Bringing our rook to the middle of the board looks like a good move. Attacking the bishop and kicking it out looks like a good move. Making a pawn trade to open up our rook looks like a good move. Bringing our knight forward to target the bishop and the pawn looks like a good move. Everything looks pretty good. So let's just play moves. Let's not think for a minute every single move. We can, by the way, take this bishop, or we can jump in behind the pawn. A lot of people forget that it's not just the physical thing that was being threatened, it's the square. It's not just the physical piece, it's the square. I wanted to get to the square to target two other pieces. I could have taken the bishop, but of course grabbing the rook is much better. And so now we need to go, again, as always, to the converting phase of this game. I would like to trade queens. If you're going to give me free pawns, of course I'm going to take them. All right, I would like to trade queens. I would like to trade rooks. And then I would like to end with rook versus bishop. So this is a very unfortunate situation of, hey, that pawn is hanging. I can defend it, or I can set a trap. The trap here is that although it looks like my rook has to move, always look for checks. And Daniel Naroditsky himself used to always say, loose pieces drop off. It's a loose piece. If there is a way to check a king somehow, in this case there is. This is a beautiful example of how a queen is such a powerful piece that it sees three completely distinct points on the board. And now we punish our opponent for grabbing our pawn. That is how you set a trap in chess. You see it in advance. My opponent plays a5, it's a free pawn. But just like in the previous endgames, we have a pass pawn. We're going to push it. We're going to try to make a queen. Okay, now we can take back, of course. I need to get some more support. I'm going to try to put a rook behind the pawn and the queen, and the rook and queen behind the pawn. I'm trying to make a queen. They have to block it. They don't block it. I can promote to anything, but let's make a queen. We take. And now at this point, generally when you have such a big material advantage in an endgame, you have a very clean cut. Like sashimi, you know? Very clean professional cut. You don't have to go bananas here. Corral the king like a shepherd dog, you know? So we're going to go queen f5. It's available to us. The king likely has to go to the back rank. And now, as long as you're preventing the king from escaping, you should have checkmate within 5 moves. Pawn to g6 allows the rook to swarm in. The king going back to g8 or to h8 allows the rook to swarm in. And as long as you're not allowing the king to then run forward, you're going to be just fine. I wonder if my opponent is taking a little bit of time here. Well, they could be tilted that they lost to somebody who, you know, this convincingly, and they could feel like something is up. It does happen at times. By the way, folks, look how easy it is to lose in chess. Look how easy. When I gave this check, my rook is now no longer protected. And if this pawn wasn't here, there is a universe in which white loses this game to queen takes rook checkmate, which is why you need to be effective with your checks, not go on a crazy king hunt. Here you might be tempted to give this check or this check or this check, but the king can't actually escape. So this check is by far the most controlled. And now the king is completely stuck. And you give each rook a try, and the king is locked in. Now you have to lose the queen. This is mate in 1. Ladder mate, although a lot of people here would play queen here and queen f7, or queen g6 and here. Very important you cut the king on the last rank. Instead, we go like this. And that was a very nice conversion. Like I said, you got to be clean cut. Now, let's analyze. This game, the way I played, is the way I'm going to play at the 1500 level. This was definitely an over estimation of the 600 level, but I wanted to honor the opening that Daniel played all the time. May he rest in peace. And it's a very tricky London system, and it's very, very decent at the intermediate and early advanced levels. It's less effective at 1200 because, like, what are you going to do in this position with white? It's kind of like long-term planning, and, it's very positional. And I think at like 1200, it's easier to attack. Like, it's much easier if you have clear attacking plans, which sometimes in the London you do. I will show you how to play the London in a very aggressive way as we continue to move up the ratings to 800, 900, etc. But this is instructive because you can damage the pawns, and then you just don't let the pawn go to c5. And if you don't let the pawn go to c5 and you don't let the pawn go to e5, you have a very easy game. And, that's kind of what I did here. My opponent could have maybe gone for c5. And after takes, even takes and takes, like, this is bad long term. Like, these pawns are just not very good, although this is the best version that black is going to get. In the game, I managed to create a total bind. So you can't play a5, c5, or e5. And that means your light squared bishop is going to be miserable. So I went here, and I attacked the pawn. I wanted to see if my opponent would spot it, and they went c5. Now, the game here actually is quite complicated. If I were to take with the knight, there was a very nasty counter-attacking move. See, the way 600s think is like this. Can I take with my knight? If they take me, I take back, and I attack the queen. It's a good move. Knight c5. The way a higher rated player thinks is, hey, how can they attack me? They don't have to take my knight. When I go here, how can they put maximum attacking pressure on me? Bishop b5. You have to be able to spot bishop b5 from a distance. That is very difficult. Probably until like 1500, it's so difficult under time constraint to consistently find your opponent's resources against you. You're almost driving like in heavy rain or snowfall. Like, you're doing your best and you will get to the destination, but you have to slow down. And at some point, something might fly into the windshield. Like, you got to be a little careful. So that's why I didn't take with the knight, because the bishop move, I thought it was much simpler to do this. And now, could I have taken this pawn? Yes, because my knight is protected. But I didn't like the same idea trying to put the bishop here, in which case my queen is trapped. Like, my queen is just literally stranded there. I would have to go queen here and lose a full knight, just a full knight. And on top of that, I'm going to lose a pawn and another pawn, and black is going to bring the rooks. And so what is the lesson here? Taking a free pawn, defending a hanging knight seems like a no-brainer. But because the queen would be stranded to the move, rook to b8, defensive resource for the opponent, I didn't play this. This is very high-level stuff, and I do not expect even a 1500, actually, to spot the power of rook to b8. You might be watching this insulted, but it's not an easy thing to go, what's wrong with queen a6? It's not obvious at all. It's not obvious to understand that, like, this is really powerful. And look, you can play pawn to c4, which actually looks quite reasonable, but then your queen is trapped. You've blocked your queen's escape, and you have to play this, which leads to a position where you have horrendous pawn structure, and you are worse. Not easy. Not easy. And by the way, your knight is trapped. Then you have to bring the knight here and sacrifice the knight to try to have... I mean, this is ridiculous. What are we even looking at, right? So, very high-level stuff and way above the pay grade, but what I can say is that here, I would not have traded the knight like this. I would play f5. I'd play f5. You need to anchor the knight. You need to make it unpleasant for the opponent to simply take your pieces, because then I would be walking directly into a fork. And once you did this, I was pretty happy. Last lesson here is that it's not the physical piece that is being attacked, it is the square. A lot of people blunder something pretty funny. People blunder this concept. I'm going to show you. They blunder this. I am threatening a checkmate. And people go, pawn to h6 solves that, because no. I guarantee many of you watching this have made this mistake or have been the benefactors of this mistake. The mistake is not that I would like to take the pawn. The mistake is I'm trying to go to the square. I'm trying, like, that's the that's the move. That's the idea. It's not the mistake. It's the idea. So I'm trying to go to the square, and it's not about taking the free pawn. So when I played this move, my opponent should have probably retreated the bishop. But instructive. I'm enjoying a lot. Okay, we have white again. I will play another London, and let's see what happens. This time I'm not going to play the Joe Bava London. We've actually had a couple of people play like this, just very solid. You know, not letting us get in or anything, but they do block their bishops if they play like this, and this is not particularly good. And for the record, I could have put 2 pawns in the center. Now, this is weird, right? So we have faced openings in the slow run that are weird openings. We are getting hit with weird stuff. This is weird stuff. This is weird business. Yeah, like they're already threatening to trap our bishop. So the way you deal with weird stuff is you deal with the immediate threats first, should they exist. The threat is this, so I can play h3 or h4. Both are okay. I'm just going to play h3 so that if they try to trap our bishop, I'm going to go back. And now we finish playing the game the right way. And then we make a break. We break open the position. What does that mean, finish the game, you know, in the right way? Well, let's bring pieces to the party. Okay, knight e4 again. I don't really know what this does. What I do know is, since my opponent is playing quite poorly, it is worth me, like, immediately attacking them. So now I am creating a threat on the knight and developing a bishop at the same time. Oh, this is the second time in the slow run that we're dealing with the sacrifice that opens up our king, but this doesn't work because now we have 3 pieces developed and an extra knight. And now I will teach you something called castling by hand. The move c5 has been played here. Okay, I mean, we can take. We also can ignore. There is nothing special about this move. But let me just take, since I'm up material now, so it only makes sense. And now, actually, castling by hand would be rook to f1 and then king to g1, manually moving the pieces. And it's like we castled and sacrificing the knight was simply not good. But at this point, also, we can give this check. And why is this check good? Because we are going to trade some pieces, boys and girls. And without pieces on the board, this is not going to be fun. So now I'm going to trade first the queen. With no queen, we are never going to get mated. Ever. Then I'm going to trade the knight. With no pieces, they are never going to mate us. And they didn't even take back. Wow. By the way, look at this. This is a really, really clever move. The threat is to trap our rook. However, there's a few ways to deal with this. There's actually, there's so many instructive ways to deal with this. If you just stop the threat with pawn to c3 and they just take the bishop, that's fine. But you have the move. You can deal with this in a much more emphatic fashion. This is why you should always look for checks. Check. The king can't go here because of our bishop, right? The king is going to run. Now, another check. And now the king has to run in front of the bishop. And they don't have that threat anymore. And if the king goes here, well, right? So now they ran in front of the bishop. I can give another check. I can take that bishop. And then I'm going to save mine. And this is why you can't play with fire. You can't. Like, it's going to backfire. Can't play with fire. It's going to backfire. Because, look, they messed around too much. It's the 15th move. And as I said in the very beginning of this episode, you're gonna have this happen. You're like 1 in 3, 1 in 4 games is gonna be just very chaotic. By the way, there is an idea behind this move. See, at this point, a player with white would go, I haven't gotten my knight and rook out, so I'm gonna develop my knight. I don't blame you, but black is trying to go b5 and c4. And once you have seen that pattern once to try to trap your bishop, this is an aggressive player. He'll spot this for sure. This player is very good. He's very good at spotting stuff like this. Yeah, you see? Now I got my bishop trapped. So we're going to lose the bishop. I only played into this just to see if they would spot it. Now, let's start eating free stuff. Like, that's what we should have done. We should have seen the pawn attack coming. We should have spotted their resources for them in advance. So we win a couple of pawns back. We have a knight advantage now. See, look how aggressive this player is. Okay, we can move forward or back or target the pawn. I have a feeling my opponent is going to go pawn to a5 and completely... Oh, rook b8, actually. Okay, defends the pawn. So now, how do you win? You have an extra knight. What do you do? Let's use our rook, attacking this pawn. Okay, they didn't acknowledge it whatsoever. It's... You know, sometimes you get rewarded. You know, your opponents just play a little bit too fast. And this was protected, right? So now we want a pawn. Okay, bishop to b7. Can I take? No. Can I take? No. Does this have a threat? No. Let's use the rook. You know, we haven't moved the rook yet. Let's go here. Let's try to get the rook down. So this is check. Sorry, this is check and this is check. Our knight is hanging. So a lot of you would just very quickly move knight to e6, which I don't mind. This is not a bad move, but then you need to have a follow-up. But at this point, we're going knight c5 and... Okay, we're going knight c5 and we're going to just trade some more pieces. That's what we should be thinking here. Knight c5 and... Oh my goodness. Yeah, this person is very aggressive, but very blunder-prone. Doesn't think a lot about the opponent, which is important, you know? That's a very important thing that you have to do. This is probably what they're going to play. They're very... Now, I can move my knight. If I move my knight, they're going to take my pawn. Protect the knight. You don't have to move it. And since we have a 2-knight advantage, we should use both knights. Also, don't forget, at any given moment, it's time to start pushing our pawns again, right? c3, b4. Does this move have a threat? No. Let's bring our second knight into the game. Okay. This looks like a good pawn trade. Maybe we can get a pawn trade, bring our knight in. Okay. I think they're going to check us. Now I kind of expect this move. Although it is protected. Okay. Trying to attack us. Ooh, fork. Look at that. I just looked at the first check that I could see, and it just so happened to be a fork. And now we win a rook. That's going to make the game a lot easier for us. I mean, I just was like, hey, that's a check. Ooh, that works. I'll take it. Also, we have a mating net in this position. This is very instructive stuff. The way you can come up with this concept, obviously, if you just play here and you win, I have absolutely zero complaints. But sometimes late in games, running the king to the opposite side of the board can confuse your opponent a little bit. And if you look around right now, my opponent's king can't touch a lot of squares. So if I actually use this rook, this is mate. I prevent the infiltration of the king, and I actually completely remove every legal move. Every legal move is taken. So now, this is mate in 1, this is mate in 1, and this is mate in 1, and that's all. Anything? Mate in 1 and a fork. Nice way to end the game. 2 knights, king is hanging, rook is hanging. My opponent moved the rook away. This was a very nice checkmating sequence. I like to sprinkle in these little tidbits, you know, to just show a little bit more advanced stuff, like rook to g7. It's called a mating net. Weaving a mating net, like a little spider web. Very nice idea here, totally shutting it down. Rook g7. The goal is for most of you watching to sit there and go, wow, I would absolutely never consider that move. And in the future, when an opponent's king is trying to run into your territory like this to hide and potentially get stalemated later on, because it can be tricky. It's like a grappling match. You have limbs, arms, elbows, you know, like it's a mess, right? It's like playing Twister. Anybody ever play Twister? Terrible activity, by the way. Depends who you're playing with. Yeah, we weave the little net, and we got a nice win there. Now, this was an example of a 600 who was a belligerent player. However, you notice, what did I say? I said we're going to deal with the immediate threats in the opening, then we're going to stick to good principles. Knight to f3, our opponent went here. Don't be afraid to trade when they have only one piece out. If you have developed more pieces than your opponent, trades are good. For example, if I had gone knight to d2 and my opponent took, this is good for me. My opponent has no pieces out. I'm making progress. If you can trade pieces and make progress at the same time, it's a good thing. Now, the best way for my opponent to have played here would have been g4. Why? Because after pawn takes, knight takes, this is already getting quite weird. It's quite weird. Like, if I develop the bishop, suddenly here's pawn to h3. Now you're like, ugh. If I take, I let the rook in, so I'm going to push. Now suddenly this pawn's actually not bad. This pawn's just, it got through. Now if these pieces get out of the way, it's queening. Now black is better. This is like, this shows you that playing weird does work if you do it the right way. I mean, it really is true. Like, against this, probably what I would have done with white is move my bishop again to reactivate my rook and try to maybe go here. But this is not simple chess. It's really not. Like, weird stuff, it's hard to deal with. And if you're losing to stuff like this, don't get tilted. It's very normal. It is very, very normal. You know, I got a little bit fortunate. My opponent combined weird with terrible. Weird is weird. Doesn't mean it's bad. Terrible is terrible. Losing a knight like this, and then I very quickly was like, let's trade pieces. I traded everything, and if my opponent had taken, I would have gone here. But just to show you, like, if you play passively in a position where you have a lot of strength, here you have a lot of strength because you have a 5-point material advantage. If you play passively, you're going to miss out on opportunities. We looked for a check, and it just so happened to basically win us the game on the spot. But also here, you could have played bishop e5. This is another idea. And the idea is quite straightforward. If you trade, you have knight f7 with a fork, and they can't even take your bishop. Now, the best move here would have been this. Then we would have had to, you know, go back maybe, and then we would have had this tactic like this. But this can't work. Now, if you just went here, knight c3, fine. Fine, you're still totally winning. But it was kind of instructive how the punishment was so severe that they never even got to win my bishop. And this last moment, very important pattern to know, the pawns trapping the bishop. Happens all the time. Best move here for white is moving the c-pawn. Either to c4, preventing b5, or c3, allowing b5, but getting away. And then you would have 2 extra pieces. One last game. Let's try to get to, wow, I got 3 games with white in a row. Well, might as well. Might be a triple. Ooh! Let's potentially show how to deal with bad openings. This is a very nice way to counter a London player because they cannot play bishop to f4. This is known as the England Gambit with a U. Does my opponent know how to play the England Gambit completely? Or did they just blunder a pawn? Sometimes when they take a lot of time in the opening, it's because they're looking at my profile and they're like trying to... Okay, well, that's 2 pawns for us. 2 pawns for the good guys. We are the good guys. Now we just develop some pieces. I mean, there's nothing complicated about this gambit. It is tricky. It's a little tricky of a gambit. Queen h4. Okay. A lot of you would be tempted in this position to play pawn to g3, knight to f3. Hey, I'm going to do something really simple. I'm just going to take another pawn. So I have now taken 1, 2, 3 pawns. 4 moves have been made by white, and I have 3 extra pawns. That's a pretty good deal. It's a pretty good deal. I'm not going to lie to you. Bishop c5, none of these things scare me. Bishop b4 check. Okay. I can block this with the pawn, the knight, the bishop, the knight, or the queen. The best move is the most forcing. It's with the pawn. Because now a bishop hangs and the knight. Now I'm not just up 3 pawns. I am completely winning. This is a 660 rated player I'm playing. Look at what's possible if you just play principled chess. Like, these are not paid actors. These are random people in the pool, and it shows you the gaps. Now, lock in. Lock in. This is the moment right here. We got to be a little bit careful. We could take making a queen, but we would be allowing a counterattack. I think the best thing to do is just to block. Block one of these things. Block the queen, block the bishop. Let's block the queen. Pawn to g3. Let's not get mated. I understand over there we can take the knight. Speaking of which, if they go queen to e4, so the best move is probably queen to f6. But my opponent might go, ooh. Then we have queen to d8 checkmate. And we would be winning in 7 moves. This move luckily prevents that. I don't even know if they see that. They do play this move. Now, I would love to set a trap here, although I don't know how possible that is. Yeah, it's really tough to set a trap. They are still looking at this. We could be able to take and run away, actually, but I would not advise that. I would instead develop simply a knight to f3, and on the next move, we can develop the bishop, and then we can castle our king. Now, they might play knight c6, and that would be the end of that. The end of the fun. Yes. Ooh, no. Hey, how about we end this on a really nice note? Bishop to g5, and now if my opponent goes here or here or here, I sack my queen, and I promote a new one with that same pawn they gave me, and I win the game. The only way to prevent this is to offer me a trade of queens. I highly doubt my opponent sees queen to d8. I just want to end this with an emphatic note, a short game to show you you can't play chess like this. And there it is, folks. Queen to d8 appearing on the board. Goodness me. Goodness me, a 10-move victory. We promote to a new queen, and we win. We had auto queen on, and that is why you can't play a triple pawn gambit with black. You got to respect the principles of the game. You got to respect the principles. Oh, that's an exciting one. And my opponent's gonna sit there and be like, what on earth? But let this serve as a lesson. You have to respect principles. Now, this is a reasonable gambit. The England gambit, there is an England gambit trap. Knight c6, knight f3, queen e7, there's a check, and if you fall into the trap, you actually could lose in 8 moves with white. And if you memorize this sequence, this is checkmate, with black, you will win some games, for sure. There's another gambit, the more advanced England gambit, which is simply taking with the bishop. And then what black does here is quickly develops both knights, the bishop, the queen, and castles long. And what kind of happens here in this England gambit is, let's just say something like this, queen e7, bishop e2, long castle. You see black is causing some problems. Like white has to be a bit passive, black develops here, and suddenly black is attacking. And if you play h3, bishop takes, queen e5, you're under a severe attack. Nearly already completely decisive. The more advanced England gambit is actually quite good, but this is not, I mean, I just defended myself, and when you're up 3 pawns in 7 moves, go back and attack. Could I have played normal like this? Yes. Castle, and then we would have had to play. I would have developed my bishop. I probably would have quickly traded because I'm supporting trading while you're ahead, but this would have been a longer game. But instead of that, they didn't realize that not only did they give me 3 pawns, they also severely weakened their king with that pawn that they gave me, and we end on a nice note. 4 wins. I tried to play a handful of Londons. I will go back to playing some King's Pawn games. If there's any other requests that you have in terms of openings, please let me know. Episode 8 is in the books. If you like my openings or how I explain things, the Traxler, the Vienna, the London, it's all available on Chessly, my educational platform. And that's all I have for you today. Get out of here.